Good morning. I want to talk today about the upcoming lunar month, which begins with the new moon on January 11th and goes up to the next new moon on February 9th. So let's see if I can share my screen and we can get started. And I just need to take care of a few housekeeping things real quickly, get stuff out of the way that makes it hard for me to see what's going on. Okay, and hold on. Okay, here we go. I think we're ready. The lunar month, January 11 through February 9. Now, first, I just want to give you an overview of what I see going on astrologically. We have a persistent sextile between Jupiter and Saturn that will help to create a balance between growth and regulation. That's going to be there throughout the entire lunar month, and that's going to be very good. There are also going to be a few sign changes from Sagittarius to Capricorn that will signal a shift from group discussion to perhaps individual decrees. Rather than a meeting of the minds, group knowledge like you have in Sagittarius, someone wants to take control of the situation and just say, okay, this is what's going to happen. We also will have some sign changes from Capricorn to Aquarius, which will signal a shift from individual decrees to group collaboration and a focus on both humanitarianism and technology. When things go from Capricorn into Aquarius, it's a shift from individual power to group power, power to the people. Let's see. Neptune will at times assist compassionate actions. Neptune is in Pisces now, and Pisces makes a sextile to Capricorn. So when planets in Capricorn perfect that sextile to Neptune, that is going to be good for things such as inspiration, spiritual pursuits, and compassion. But at other times, we're going to get misinformation and fuzzy plans, in particular, probably fuzzy plans for peace. And that's because we start out with a few things in Sagittarius, and the sign Pisces squares Sagittarius. Sagittarius is all for exchanging information with others, group discussions, but Pisces, while it provides inspiration, it doesn't provide details. It doesn't specify the boundaries or the parameters for whatever solution it's proposing, and that is not going to sit well with Sagittarius. So there's a little, things will be a little bit at odds there, and there could be misinformation, among other things. Okay, another thing that's going to happen, which is extremely important, is the Sun and Pluto will enter Aquarius together on January 20th. And the 0-degree Aquarius point of the December 2020 conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn will be stimulated this lunar month by Sun and Pluto and a Mercury conjunct Pluto, and in the next lunar month by Mars conjunct Pluto and Venus conjunct Pluto. Now, technically, the Sun and Pluto this lunar month will come into conjunction at exactly 29 degrees 59 minutes of Capricorn, right before the Sun enters Aquarius. But when the Sun does enter Aquarius at 0 degrees Aquarius, well, Pluto will be right behind it. Pluto, when it enters Aquarius, the Sun, by degree, is still going to be at 0 degrees of Aquarius. So we get a conjunction in Aquarius at 0 degrees. It's not exact to the minute, but exact to the degree. And that point is so important because that is where Jupiter and Saturn had their conjunction in December 2020, right there at 0 degrees of Aries. And a lot of important things have been happening since then, and even a little bit before then at 0 degrees of Aries. Now, normally Jupiter and Saturn will come into conjunction roughly about once every 20 years, starting a new 20-year cycle. But this time, we're starting at least a new approximately 200-year cycle. For about the next 200 years, Jupiter and Saturn will be having their conjunctions in air signs. Previously, uh, almost all of the Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions for about 200 years were in Earth signs. And if you think of Jupiter as expansion and growth, Saturn as the necessary restrictions and regulations that have to accompany growth, well, over the past 200 years, we've seen quite a bit of growth when it comes to the material world. Goods and finances, economies, material pleasures, things we like. That is what Jupiter and Saturn have been promoting for the past 200 years, that kind of material growth. But now, for the next 200 years, these conjunctions are going to be in air signs, and that has more to do with creativity, intellectual growth, and relationships. Gemini, air sign, it's a very clever sign, likes to use the brain and think about things. Libra is about relationships, so think of that also as um, abstract or mental in the sense of talking and meeting and discussing things with people. And Aquarius is about group creativity, group collaboration. And uh, over the next approximately 20 years that Pluto will be in Aquarius, we are expecting great leaps forward in technology, great creativity. We're already seeing that with the rapid development of AI, artificial intelligence. So we're actually starting this new 200-year cycle, but even more than that. If we ask ourselves, when was the last time Jupiter and Saturn were in conjunction, not just in an air sign, but in Aquarius? That was about 600 years ago, actually in the year 1405. So we're also starting this 600-year cycle of growth and creativity, technology, and collaboration, uh, group partnerships with one another. And when this happened in 1405, that was roughly the beginning of the Renaissance in Europe. And also in the year 1405, China began sending out uh, ships into the deep ocean to explore the world. So whether you're in Europe or China, you can see the sudden change of things as a new cycle began and growth and technology prospered. And we're going to be having a lot of stuff happening at 0 degrees Aquarius still. And every time we get some sort of conjunction at 0 degrees of Aquarius, it is just reinforcing the meaning of that Jupiter-Saturn conjunction that occurred there in December 2020. Uh, like I said, Sun and Pluto, they will be conjunct at 29 degrees Capricorn, 59 minutes. But moments after that, or in the day after that, they're both going to be present at 0 degrees Aquarius. We get exact conjunction later this lunar month of Mercury with Pluto at 0 degrees Aquarius. And the next lunar month, it will be Mars and Pluto at 0 degrees Aquarius, and then Venus and Pluto at 0 degrees Aquarius. So we're really kicking off this some long-term Aquarius cycles. That's good for technology, humanitarianism, and group creativity and collaboration. Now, additionally, we'll have a variety of sextiles and trines that will make this lunar month a little less tense than previous months. However, tensions may rise in the last half of this lunar month due to several squares and oppositions that occur. Okay, now what I'm going to do here is I want to look at 4 charts in particular. These 4 charts will be turning points of sorts for the lunar month. We'll look at the new moon, the first quarter moon, the full moon, and the third quarter moon. And then we'll wrap things up by just taking a very quick look at the next new moon, but not go into great detail on that. In between these critical days, these turning points, we'll look to see what aspects become exact in the week in between. Okay, so first thing I want to point out is Mercury is moving direct. It was retrograde, but on, I think, the 1st of January, it turned direct in Sagittarius. Sagittarius corresponds to the ninth house of a horoscope. It's the ninth sign in the zodiac. It has to do with the knowledge of the group. So I like to think of it as a meeting of the minds. Uh, when the sign of Sagittarius is very active, that's when people can have good discussions with one another. And with both Mercury and Venus in Sagittarius right now, this is a window of opportunity for discussions and negotiations on the world stage with the hope of bringing current wars and conflicts to an end and hopefully having peace. But this window is not going to stay open forever as Mercury and Venus move into Capricorn. It's less a meeting of the minds and more people in power trying to make decrees and say, okay, I've got to take control. This is the way things are going to be. Now, at this new moon, Sun and Moon, of course, are conjunct as they are at every new moon, but you can see they're making an extremely strong square uh, to both sides, both poles of the lunar nodal axis. And the lunar nodes, they always tend to intensify things. And if that energy gets too intense, it goes out of control. So this square is adding some intensity to the beginning of this lunar month. Now, the good thing is we have Jupiter here making a sextile to Saturn, which makes a sextile to Mars, which then makes a very strong trine back down here to Jupiter. This little triangle, which is being formed, it does a lot to add to stability in the world. Jupiter, expansion and growth, and Saturn, control and contraction, they're working in harmony now. There's a balance between these two opposing forces, and that lets things grow in a safe way. And with Mars making good aspects to both Jupiter and Saturn, the energy, the momentum for growth is out there. With Jupiter and Taurus, this can be particularly good for the economy this month. Okay, now Sun and Moon are also going to make a trine to Uranus, which makes a sextile to Neptune. It's not a real strong sextile, but nonetheless it's there. And Neptune is, let's see, making a pretty good sextile to the Sun and Moon. So we have another triangle here, which again is helping things to flow along with a little bit more harmony. And this will help to reduce tensions. Neptune and Pisces in particular, this represents our desire for peace, our sense of compassion, and our inspiration, spirituality. That is in a harmonious relationship with the sun and moon at this new moon. And Uranus, on the other hand, it provides creativity. It's making a very strong trine to the sun and moon. This could work out in terms of business and economics. So there are some higher energies here, which are going to be coordinating, cooperating with one another very well. And this bodes well for the remainder of the month. Now, additionally, we have Venus making a very strong trine to Chiron in Aries. This is going to bring out this sweeter side of Chiron, which is spiritual transcendence and also healing. So we've been through a rough few months in the fall of 2023. During this lunar month, we have an opportunity to try and bring about some healing. It's harder to do on a global scale, easier to do on an individual level. And this will also be a time when it will be easier for you to tune in to some of those higher, more spiritual voices within you and to experience these sweet moments and feelings of spiritual transcendence. Venus, uh, it represents things we like, and that leads to things that we value because they make us feel good. But it also is connected with the right nonverbal brain, the brain that just categorizes things according to how they make you feel. This is good because it makes me feel good. This is bad because it makes me feel bad. Mercury, on the other hand, it rules the left brain. It puts things into words, the verbal brain. Well, the last aspect I want to mention with regard to this new moon is Mercury is making a fairly strong square to Neptune. Now, how's this going to work out? In terms of Mercury and Sagittarius being a meeting of the minds, this can represents discussions between diplomats, for instance, that have been going on. Neptune in Pisces represents perhaps a more nebulous desire for peace and compassion and wanting to help people who are suffering. But Neptune and Pisces are not very good when it comes to details. So Mercury and Sagittarius, it doesn't like that. It wants more than just some nebulous feelings of we want peace, we want to end all conflict. Tell us how we can do that. Yeah. Tell us how we can actually come to a verbal agreement of I do this, you do that, and so on and so forth. And then we have peace. Neptune squaring Mercury can also result in misinformation or some kind of muddled communication. Okay. Now, in the week from January 11th to January 17th, that trine between Venus and Chiron, it becomes exact on the day of the full moon, or sorry, new moon on January 11th. Uh, the trine between Mars and Jupiter, which helps stimulate growth, that becomes exact on January 12th. On January 13th, however, Mercury is going to move into Capricorn, and that's when one of those windows for talks and negotiations may uh, close a bit. It may be harder to achieve a meeting of the minds at this point. Instead, we may have people with power or people in control who simply decree, this is what I want, this is the way it's going to be. On the 15th, however, the Sun will be making a sextile to Neptune. That will be exact. And that is going to provide us with some higher inspiration and spirituality. This is a day in which you might get more in tune with what you feel or recognize as your own higher spiritual self. Let me go back one slide a bit. And yeah, this is all part of, let's see, that Uranus, sextile Neptune, sextile Sun and Moon, trine Uranus, that second little triangle I was talking about. And this leg of the triangle, which will be Sun making a sextile to Neptune, that is going to become exact 4 days after the new moon on January 15th. Okay, I just need to take a little sip of water here. And now let's move on to the first quarter moon. Well, Jupiter sextile Saturn, as I said, that is going to be there the entire month. So that gives us this nice balance between growth and regulation throughout the entire month, and that is hopefully going to be very good for the economy and continue to give us a soft landing without a recession following all the inflation that's been going on. Mars, which was joining with Jupiter and Saturn to make this nice triangle, it's now being replaced by Mercury. And later on, it's going to be replaced by Venus, completing that triangle. So Mars was the energy fueling all this uh, growth, all this regulated growth. Mercury is going to be the thought process behind it, working out the details to it, thinking about what we need to do next. And so this is going to be very beneficial again. And this first quarter moon, it's on January 17th. The sun is still making a sextile to Neptune, so people are still being inspired and still feeling that need to be compassionate to others. Venus is going to be making a trine to the moon that's moderately strong. And this is also good for peace. Uh, so even though Mercury has moved into Capricorn and that closes one door for negotiations, Venus is still in Sagittarius. So there's another door that's still open a crack. And at the first quarter moon, um, this will be a time when we could have good discussions about things, either in the Middle East or anywhere else. Now, we have a few other things going on. Of course, since it's a first quarter moon, the sun is going to be squaring the moon, but the sun is very close to an exact conjunction now with Pluto, and we have both of those squaring the moon. And that is a little bit more ominous. As Sun and Pluto come into conjunction in Capricorn, people with power will feel more empowered. In fact, everyone will feeling a little bit more empowered. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, which is our drive to control and regulate ourselves. And sometimes we feel so powerful that we just start telling everyone else what to do without actually listening to hear uh, their side of things, what they would really like to do. So this could cause some trouble when we have the square between Sun and Pluto and the moon. In fact, even having Sun conjoining with Pluto in Capricorn, that could be a little bit troubled by itself because people who hold the reins of power, they may feel even more empowered and go overboard. And the last aspect I want to mention is Venus in Sagittarius is going to make a pretty strong square to Neptune in Pisces. Remember previously we had Mercury making that square. But now it's going to be Venus, and Venus is our right brain. So, this can cause some confusion. Our right brains could get a little muddled when it comes to discussions for peace going on. And everyone wants peace and compassion, but it has to be brought about in the right way. We have to talk honestly and sincerely and truthfully with one another to bring that about. Okay. You might also notice that Chiron, it's starting to get close to the north node here, getting close to exact conjunction with the lunar nodal axis. Uh, that is going to happen, I think it becomes exact in February, maybe February 19th, and I'll try and say a word about that in a few minutes. Okay, now if we look at the aspects, which will become exact in the week from January 17th to January 25th, most aren't that bad. We have Mercury perfecting its sextile with Saturn on the 18th, and it's trine to Jupiter on the 19th. That is going to help with growth and balance in the world and in the economy. Venus will be in an exact square with Neptune on January 19th. And that, as I pointed out, could be a little troublesome. This could result in some miscommunications, or it involves Venus and Sagittarius. It's going to be the nonverbal brain, so people may take things the wrong way. On the 20th, January 20th is going to be a very big day for the year. This is because we not only have Sun conjunct Pluto at 29 degrees, 59 minutes of Capricorn, but immediately there afterwards, we have Sun moving into Aquarius. And then a little later in the day, we have Pluto moving into Aquarius. And they will both be in conjunction to the degree, not to the minute. They'll both be there together at 0 degrees of Aquarius on January 20th. Times here are for where I live out in Scottsdale, Arizona, by the way. So you live elsewhere in a different time zone, it'll be a little different time. But this is a big shift that is coming up. This is a lot of energy moving from earth signs, from Capricorn, which likes to control and regulate things, and which is connected more with individuals with power, into an air sign. Air signs are not as materialistic. They value ideas more. They look at the big picture. They think about things more. And in Aquarius, the emphasis is going to be not only on humanitarianism, but also on technology. And we're moving from this world where we've been focused on material things and how do I fix the supply chain and get toilet paper and paper towels and other stuff. We're moving from that kind of mindset to just a world where technology is going to be growing by leaps and bounds over approximately the 20 years that Pluto stays in Aquarius. There's going to be about a 2.5 month period from September through mid-November when it retrogrades back into Capricorn. But after that, it stays in Aquarius solidly for about the next 20 years. And the world is really going to change. Science and technology are going to explode in a good way, hopefully. On January 23rd, let's see, Venus is going to move from Sagittarius into Capricorn, and that's kind of closing that second window for dialogue and discussion, the meeting of the minds that I was talking about when we had Mercury and Venus and Sagittarius. So whatever seeds for peace and ideas for peace that are going to be planted by individuals and diplomats, those need to be planted now. Because when Mercury and Venus both move on into Capricorn, things are going to change a bit. It's going to be more about implementing things than discussing things. Okay. And now we're going to move on to the full moon, and I'll take another sip of water. Well, at the full moon, things are starting to get a little bit more intense than they have been. For one, we see some T-squares here. Sun is still within orb of conjunction with Pluto. They're about 5 degrees apart. Of course, it's a full moon, so they're both going to be opposite the moon. But Jupiter is making a good square to these things, and that's completing one T-square here. Now, Sun conjunct Pluto, this will be very interesting because, like I said, this puts a lot of power into individuals. Uh, every person may be feeling a little bit more empowered at this time, but that could be good or bad depending upon how they express that power. But this new moon is occurring with Sun and Pluto, both in Aquarius, and Pluto is still at 0 degrees of Aquarius. So it is further strengthening and stimulating this point where that previous Jupiter-Saturn conjunction had occurred. So this is going to be more fuel added to the fire for all these social changes. Uh, big changes are going to come about, and big changes in technology, and a shift from of power from individuals to the people. Now, Jupiter is in Taurus, which often has to do with money, possessions, and the economy. And Jupiter always tries to make everything grow and expand. Uh, but because it's not in a harmonious relationship with Sun, Pluto, and the Moon, perhaps there might be too much growth at this time. It might fuel a little bit more inflation. Hopefully not. But it does suggest that there will be some sort of excess at this time. Maybe uh, consumers might be shopping too much. Uh, companies may be expanding too much. It's hard to say what the excess will be, but we do expect some sort of excess at this point of the lunar month. But then we have a second T-square here, which is also ominous in its own way. We have Mercury in a strong conjunction with Mars in Capricorn. Mars is our energy. It can be a healthy assertion. It can be unhealthy aggression and anger. And conjunct with Mercury, our verbal brain, people can be vocally upset about things. And it's in the sign of Capricorn, which is ruled by Saturn. That has to do with trying to exert control and regulation. At its worst, this would be angry people forcing their will upon others. Now, these two planets are making a very strong square to Chiron. And at its best, while Chiron is a bridge between Saturn and Uranus, a bridge between what we can see, the planet Sun through Saturn, and what we can't see, Uranus through Pluto. At its best, it is this very, very sweet spiritual transcendence. But when it's not working at its best, it tends to wound people because uh, quite often the hard Saturnian shell that people have erected around themselves has to be cracked a bit before the light can come in. And with Chiron close to, it's getting closer to this conjunction with the North Node, that intensifies things even more. So there might be some sort of wounding going on. Could be militaristic since Chiron is in Aries. That's ruled by Mars. The only saving grace here is that the square here is with Mars, but since Mars is the ruler of Aries where Chiron is in, that allows a little bit more harmony, a little bit more communication. Nonetheless, I wouldn't be surprised to see some sort of wounding going on, either militarily or from what others are decreeing, forcing their will upon the rest of us. Exactly what happens, we'll just have to wait and see. Okay. Um, let me say that little bit about Chiron that I've been saving. I think Chiron conjunct North Node is exact around February 19th of this year. The last time we had Chiron conjunct the North Node in Aries was in February of 1969. Was that year intense in any way? Well, those of us who were alive back in 1969 will remember how momentous that year was. And the conjunction of Chiron with the North Node, that was not the only uh, intense astrological thing going on at that time. There were lots of new cycles, lots of changes happening astrologically in the later 60s. And that is what brought about all the cultural transformations and new cycles that we're still going through. Okay, now on the good side, we still have Jupiter making a good sextile to Saturn. And this time, the triangle is being completed by Venus. Okay, first it was Mars, then Mercury, and then Venus. So we got Jupiter, sextile Saturn, sextile Venus, and then that trines Jupiter again. And this is again going to, in spite of what other indications are, this will be good for uh, sustained, regulated growth. And since it's Venus, that's our right brain, will probably like what's going on at this point. And the other aspect I want to mention here, we do have Mercury conjunct Mars, which can be very aggressive, very assertive, but it's making a trine with Uranus. And Uranus and Taurus, this is creativity with regard to material possessions, the business, financial side of things. So this could represent some good, active, and concrete growth in the economy and some unexpected innovations, perhaps, that may be beneficial. Okay, I'll take another drink of water and then we'll go on to the next slide and see what kind of aspects will become exact in the week following this full moon. And let's see. We'll have that Mars square Chiron. That becomes exact on the January 25th. That is the date of the full moon. Go back here. Yep, January 25th. That's going to intensify things a bit. Mercury squares Chiron exactly just the following day, January 26th. So, good chance of some wounding going on. Uranus will turn stationary direct on January 26th. Now, what this means is that Uranus has been slowing down. It's been moving retrograde and then coming to a standstill right before it turns direct. But whenever a planet is moving very, very slowly, its energy, its impact is intensified because it's just sitting there in the same place. It's like, someone hitting you in the same place over and over again. If you're getting those blows spread out over time, the impact is less. So, what would be good for this would be creativity and innovation in the economy. Since Uranus is in Taurus, the second sign of the zodiac, it has that natural affinity with the second house of money and possessions. The sun will make its exact square to Jupiter on January 27th. On that same day, Mercury makes an exact conjunction with Mars. Sun squared Jupiter, as I said, that's going to represent some kind of excess, doing too much, getting too exaggerated. On a personal level, making your personality too large for the situation, not keeping your energy sort of contained and under control. Mercury conjunct Mars, that can be very aggressive. At best, it's healthy assertion and healthy mental energy. At worst, it's a lot of anger, and anger can lead to violence. Also on the 27th, we'll have Sun making a sextile, exact sextile with Saturn. Later on the 28th, it's going to make that exact trine to Jupiter. And remember, this is good for balance and growth. Uh, Jupiter and Saturn, despite everything else going on, they're working well with one another. That produces some balance in this lunar month and helps the economy grow in a favorable way. On the 28th, we also have uh, Mercury making its exact trine to Uranus. And on the 29th, Mars will make its exact trine to Uranus. And with Uranus and Taurus, this could be good for the economy. So there may be some good innovations that come along that help out the world economically. Okay, I need another sip of water and then we'll take a look at the third quarter moon. All right. Well, we still have some tensions here. Third quarter, this time we have Venus squaring Chiron and both sides of this lunar nodal axis. That's going to intensify things. And we've had some wounding. We get some wounding as, Mars and Mercury and Venus all in turn make their squares to Chiron. And let's see when those previous ones were. We had, Mars squared Chiron on the 25th and Mercury right after it on the 26th. And now on February 2nd, Venus will be squaring Chiron. So that's going to continue. Probably some wounding. For those who are more spiritually minded, though, Chiron getting close to conjunction with the North Node. They're now, let's see, less than a degree apart from one another. This could also be a big spiritual boost for some. If you are open to higher energies and you don't need your shell to be cracked, then you can make some great spiritual advancement at this point. Get wonderful insights. Feel the sweetness of this transcendent energy associated with Chiron. But if you're not there on a personal level, you might feel some wounding. And when it comes to the world and the masses, we typically get more wounding, a little bit of healing among some, and then even less uh, experiencing that spiritual transcendence. The good news, though, is Jupiter will still be making its sextile to Saturn, but now we're pretty much out of orb for the third vertex of that triangle that we've had all month. But at least we still have the sextile between Jupiter and Saturn. The Sun will be making a sextile to Chiron in the north lunar node and a trine to the south lunar node. That will provide some release for whatever tensions are present in this T-square configuration here, involving Venus, Chiron, and the lunar nodal axis. So, and this will also make it easier for individuals to experience some transcendence. So it's really good for the whole world to open themselves up to the higher, sweeter, more transcendent Chiron side of Chiron in this lunar month. Okay, what else is going on? Well, we have Pluto, Mercury, and Mars all within orb of a sextile to Neptune, which is making a sextile to Uranus and Taurus. And Taurus is making a trine to Mars and Venus up here. So we're still getting some of this higher energy. Remember, as things move from Sagittarius into Capricorn, it moved from negotiations to discussions to the leaders probably making decrees saying this is the way it's going to be. But the influence of Neptune on them will help bring forth more compassion. The influence of Uranus on the leaders will bring forth more creativity and solutions that will benefit the economy and be win-win solutions for everyone. And let's see. We also have this at the time of this third quarter moon. Venus is making a very strong sextile to the moon. That is going to be pleasant. We're going to feel good at this time. So think about the things you like to do and enjoy. Uh, One of the tenser things, though, is going to be that the sun is going to be making a square to Uranus. It's not real strong at this point, but this can represent something unexpected, some unexpected jolt, and it may involve the economy in some way. Uh, it may be that the economy wants to go in one direction on its own, but with Sun and Aquarius, group collaboration, leaders working together may want it to go in another direction, and there may be difficulty making that happen. Uh, on individual level, at its best, you may have flashes of insight. At worst, manic depressive psychosis. You just may be feeling bipolar and in a very manic state. Get a little too excited at this point. By the way, one of the benefits of astrology, once you understand the meanings of these planets and the signs and the aspects and the drives that they represent within us and how things are interacting, then you can live more in harmony with the exterior world. If you're consciously aware of the balance that is existing at this time between Jupiter and Saturn, for example, you can participate in that balance. Through conscious awareness, you can enhance your own internal balance more and more. Uh, and you can enjoy the external world then and bring forth good things into that world. On the other hand, when things are very tense in the external world, that is when certain paths that you might want to take may be temporarily blocked. And when things are not going well in the external world, when things are blocked, that is often a good time to go inside yourself. Move internally rather than externally. Find that point of stillness within inside yourself and take solace there. Find peace there. Uh, Peace at the center of your own awareness, where everything is always unified and always at peace. And if you align yourself with the center of your awareness during these tense times, you won't be affected by them so much. You won't get caught up in them so much because you will have retreated to this point of absolute stillness and perfection within. And then you can just wait for the cycles to move on, for things in the outer world to become more beneficial, easier again. And that is when you can more easily uh, do your building and realize your dreams and your visions. Uh, when things are not so good, go within, find the peace inside of you, but at the same time, plant those seeds of peace for the good times in the external world, which will be coming later on. Okay, let me take another sip of water real quickly. And now we're looking at the planetary aspects that will become exact in the week that follows. Mercury makes that exact sextile uh, to Neptune on February 2nd, which, yeah, that's the day of the third quarter moon. So that's a good time for vision, inspiration. On the 4th, Mercury will move from Capricorn into Aquarius. We're getting more things into Aquarius, and that Aquarian energy is building. Group creativity, moving from materialism to ideas, humanitarian concerns. We have a lot of stuff going on the 5th. Venus squares Chiron. That can be tense. That can cause some wounding. Mercury is conjunct Pluto, and that is going to increase, again, this feeling of power that people have, powerful minds, but it could also be too much of a good thing if you become too dictatorial. The sun will be making exact sextile to Chiron on the 5th. That will help release some of the tensions elsewhere that involve Chiron. Now, when Mercury is conjunct Pluto, that is going to be at 0 degrees 30 minutes of Aquarius. So, once again, we're re-stimulating, revitalizing that 0 degree Aquarius point. Transformations are going to come about fast and furious. Uh, and let's see, I think it's in the next lunar month that we will get both Venus and Mars conjunct Pluto again at 0 degrees Aquarius. So that's a very, very important point. Goes back to that Jupiter Saturn conjunction at this point in December of 2020. And that conjunction inaugurated a very important 600-year cycle. Okay. On February 7th, we have Venus conjunct, or sorry, trine Uranus, and Mars making a sextile to Neptune. So those are both going to be very nice. Uranus and Neptune represent higher energies, higher inspiration, higher creativity, and our right brain and our drive for energy and action to be active. Those are going to be working harmoniously with these higher drives. However, on the 8th, the sun is going to be making a square to Uranus, and that can be a little disruptive. Uh, Instead of wonderful creative insights, uh, things may be breaking apart a little bit. That's not to say that the whole world, that every single individual is going to have uh, a manic psychotic state, but we're all going to be feeling a little antsy on this day, a little bit overstimulated, maybe a little too hyper. And so you have to be careful about that. Now, the next lunar month is going to start on February 9th with the new moon. I just want to point out a couple of things about it. The planets are going to be less spread out in this lunar month. That creates a little bit of an imbalance. When you get your planets all crunched together too closely, things get out of kilter, they get out of balance. And so we have to be very careful. The other thing I want to mention is there is still a strong square from Uranus here to both the sun and the moon, and that is going to set a tone for the next lunar month. Things are going to be a little bit more manicky. There's going to be a little bit more unexpected events happening, maybe things breaking in the economy in ways that we don't like, and just things like that. But I'll talk about that more in more detail when we get uh, to the lunar month that begins on February 9th. I've got two more slides here. These two slides, you may want to pause and look at these. These slides just show graphically when various aspects will be in effect with a 1 degree orb and when they become exact over this lunar month. This shows just the first half from January 11th through January 25th. You can see these are all pretty harmonious aspects. Toward the end, a little less harmonious on the 19th and 20th. We have Venus square, Neptune and Sun conjunct Pluto. And remember, on the 20th, we not only have Sun conjunct Pluto, we also have Sun and Pluto both going into Aquarius. So that date represents a big shift. A good time just to stay home and relax and enjoy. Not a good time to be out in the world, out in traffic where intense energies can make some people go a little crazy. Uh, Following that, from January 25th to February 8th, we start out with some more tense squares and tense conjunctions. So this is when we'll have a lot of the tension of this lunar month, but then we get back into sextiles and trines again for a while. Uh, and that'll be followed by Venus square Chiron on, looks like February 25th. And remember, that can cause some wounding, and we had wounding prior to that, possible when Mercury and Mars were squaring Chiron. But Sun squaring Chiron can help reduce the tensions. Mercury will also be conjunct Pluto on this day. That will add to the intensity, but it's going to be at 0 degrees Aquarius. So again, we're adding energy to the start of this new world order, this Aquarian world of technology and humanitarianism and group collaboration. And at the very end of the lunar month, things are a little bit more harmonious again, with Venus making an exact trine to Uranus and Mars making an exact sextile to Neptune. Okay, well, that's going to be it. So let me stop sharing my screen and let's see. And I'm back. So that is my take on this upcoming lunar month from January 11th through February 9th. A lot of it is going to be pretty good, and there's a lot of opportunities for finding a balance between things. And for the spiritually inclined, there are opportunities for transcendence. Uh, but while a lot of things will go good this month, there are also going to be these important shifts and changes, and particularly things moving into Aquarius, and specifically Pluto moving back into Aquarius. And there are going to be some times in the middle or second half of the lunar month when uh, there could be some more wounding going on. When we get into March and April of this year, there is going to be a heightened risk of wounding for the entire world, particularly at the April 8th, 2024 solar eclipse, when Sun, Moon, and Chiron will be a conjunction that is exact to the minute. They'll all be at 19 degrees 24 minutes of Aries, and that could make this a year of wounding for the world. But it all depends upon us. Uh, if we all make the right decisions, we can make it a year of healing and a year of spiritual transcendence for the world. And right now is the time to be planting the seeds for that kind of future. You don't wait for the eclipse to come. You lay the groundwork beforehand. It's like when you get a weather report, you know a hurricane's going to hit within 4 or 5 days. But if you do the work beforehand, if you fortify all the buildings, put down the sandbags, etc., then you can weather the storm and be in much better shape afterwards. That's how things are now. So now is a good time to be kind to yourself and others, uh, to give what you can to charity to help those who are less fortunate, and to open up yourself to higher spiritual awareness, and to practice going into that deep stillness within. If we all do these things, if we all do the preparatory work, lay the groundwork for some of the tensions which are coming later during the March and April eclipses, then instead of having wounding for the world, we can have wonderful healing. and wonderful, a very sweet spiritual transcendence. So think about those things. Try and do the work to make this a good year, and then you and everyone will all be okay. So that's it for now. That's all. I hope you enjoy me. I hope you join me again for future videos, but for now, I'll just say so long and be well.